When's the last time you said you're going to do something and did it 30 days in a row, 60 days, 90 days? Even if it's just 10 minutes. When's the last time you did anything that long that you said you're going to do and did it every single day? What that does isn't even about the thing. It's about, I built this inner sense of trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And that confidence that you have from that affects all these other areas of your life. I don't really see that. So they're like, well, we need to like take the money that they're going to give you essentially. And that money was like a month work, freelance money. Obviously it's sparing, but it's much more money than, steady stuff. So it was like a month of work for me. And I was like, I can't do that. He was like, well, I can't let you go. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go. And he was like, the last couple of years have been the version of Apex that's had the most parity, the most equality amongst potential winners. And so I don't know what that says about the randomness increasing or decreasing, but I do know that that says the level is constantly raising. And, a high tide raises all ships. So I think the game has put itself in a position to allow more and more teams to be competitive, and things like drop spots that, the best ones used to go to the big dogs. Falcons would have the best spot no matter what. Now they got to earn it. And now those things rotate. Last but not least, the game is amazing. And I think it's the best feeling battle royale out there that's ever been made. And I think the movement of it is part of the reason why. And, they hit the nail on the head with an experience that people still to this day relate to, like what good movement feels like, what good like fighting feels like. And I don't think it's been replicated at all by any game, despite them having fun other things. I just don't think anything plays like Apex.
Legends tested, and still the ultimate test remains.
Esports isn't just about what happens on the screen. It's about the unforgettable live events that bring thousands of fans together, creating electric atmospheres around the world.
Joining me in this episode, we have one of the most legendary esports hosts to join us, Raynday. Welcome.
What's up, man? I appreciate the intro. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely, absolutely. Raynday, you have an amazing history. I mean, when I was like researching you a little bit, of course, you're a legendary esports host. You do a lot of content creation. I believe you have almost like 400,000 subs on YouTube. Mm-hmm. You used to play UCLA soccer, right?
Yeah.
As well? Oh man, dude, I want to get into that a little bit later. I kind of want to start off this episode with more of a chicken or the egg kind of question. So,
okay.
What came first for you? Was it casting or was it content creation?
It was content creation, really, but it was also with the caveat is I knew I wanted to cast. And the content creation was an avenue to get noticed enough to break into the games industry. That really was my underlying reason to start content, which is crazy. I had other motivations around content later, and as I started doing it, I realized how much of a vehicle, that was. And I was coming from a time where, as an athlete, as someone who was, working for other people, just felt so excited to, even while I was doing that and kind of transitioning and building it up part-time, have something that was just all mine, and no judgment. And at that time, YouTube was a little different. I mean, it was a lot different, to be fair. When you had 1,000 subs, you almost guaranteed you were going to get like, I'll probably get 400 views on this video no matter what, right? And so that's all I need, because then if the video is good enough, it'll splash to my audience. Now, some of your subscribers may not even see, may not see your video. And so it's about how you treat with the algorithm. But like that initial journey for me was all about seeing this job in the games industry, trying to find an industry post soccer and post, kind of like a sports professional athlete career, and something that utilized my talents and my interests. And so that's where video games were. That's where esports were, because I felt like the natural synergy of gaming, which I loved and have always played, and then sports, which just was basically this perfect blend of something that is a competitive person, as a public speaker, as someone who's done a lot of work out in public and online and things like that, like training my voice and how to speak to others. It was like, this is it, so how do I get here? And that was really where I started content. So that was definitely my first foray into it. And many, many years later, or a year and a half later, I got my shot to do that. But it was really content first, with the goal of somehow getting in the games industry that way.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And first of all, I really respect the fact that you wanted to do your own thing, right? I feel like that's what a lot of content creators want to do. It's like, hey, I can kind of do this, and the barrier to entry as well is kind of low, right? I mean, as long as you have a camera, YouTube is free to just start making content on, so you can kind of just start whenever you want. You can start when you're a kid, doesn't matter. Although I don't know their terms of service, but you know, we'll go across the legal stuff. But yeah, no, that's really interesting because I kind of would have thought it would actually be like the other way around. And I know you said you were utilizing, you know, the fact that you know, played soccer a little bit and all that kind of stuff and started getting into content creation, but I was thinking more of like from a casting standpoint, you would have started like casting, and then it's like, hey, from here I'm sort of building a base. Right. Like, can start content creation and then do it that way. So that's kind of interesting that you started the content creation route first. Yeah,
you know, I find that maybe it's just me and the way that I see the world, but that sounds way harder to do because, you know, I looked at it very logically. I said, you know, the people who are doing well usually get more opportunities. And so if I'm, you know, a big streamer or a big creator of this game, I keep making it known I have an interest towards esports, I might get the call up, even if it's like a guest opportunity. And then what I felt at that point in time, and I feel it now, there's been periods in my life where I haven't felt it as much, and I've just been like in the grind and not, you know, in my center, not feeling as confident. But like at that time, coming off of how much discipline and like performance you need to be successful, you know, at a high level D1 sport, you know, professional level, it was just like, I knew I could do anything once people saw me. Like, so I just like, let me get in the door. If you meet me, you will know that I'm going to be better than what you have, or at least as good, and bring something different. And I think that was like, I'll add value. And so, you know, I hear what you're saying, but I just felt like, you know, I could easily get that call up more so than somebody who's just like, here's my resume, I love casting. You know, how do you get that first gig, I think, is where everyone kind of leans in. How do I get that gig? How do I get someone to say, yes, you, and not the other person that they've been working with? And I just felt like, again, right, like doing something that I could control versus like sending my resume and like someone else has to, you know, say yes to me. I was like, YouTube feels like the way that if I get big enough, of course they're going to want me. You know what I mean?
Right,
I'm going to be a big person in their game. So that was kind of like the way that I looked at it.
Yeah, and honestly, the way that you look at it probably is the correct way. It's the way most people, I would assume, look at it.
David's like, my whole life has been backwards. Oh my God.
Yeah. I've had like a few professional players like hop on here and they're like, yeah, like one of the ways to get noticed nowadays as a professional player is actually doing content prior to that. Because when you're doing content, like you're learning from your own gameplay, your own mistakes, so you can kind of build that up. But also if you get known, it's easier to sort of get onto a team, or at the very least get the tryout, right? Get the option.
Absolutely. Yeah. We see it a lot in Apex. There's a lot of people who, surprisingly, I mean, Timmy is a great example of a person who blew up in content and just had the skills clearly in his content to be, you know, a player that got tryouts and was almost like guaranteed a slot if he wanted to at a certain point after performing well on one of the best tier 1 orgs that we always had available, you know, from NRG to 100 Thieves. You know, he was so valuable from a pickup for them that it's like, let's just build a team around, you know, Timmy. And obviously he retired, you know, this last EWC. Will he come back? You never know. But like, that is the perfect example of somebody who, you know, Asu's another example, but he didn't stay with it and he went to variety streaming, but he went pro too for a little while on the earlier iterations. I'm talking year 1, year 2 of NRG in Apex Legends. And you know, that was from content. Everyone saw how good this person was. So team them up with Sweet, team them up with more, and you've got a team. So I think that was you know, it's certainly something that I would always, anyone who's trying to break into anything, like, it's not going to hurt having content and growing that way. It'll only help your chances at getting into I would say the more systematic elements of like the bureaucratic, like, you know, I have to have a producer who says yes to me and, you know, all those things, whether it's in game development or it's esports or it's something adjacent to that.
Yeah, listen, I could watch Asu go up and down zips and casuals and just start frying people for days, all right? Like, I could just watch that. Yeah. Just watching that's content, like you said, and then you just know he's cracked. It's like, I can't do that, no way. Yeah. So, I do want to get more into content creation, kind of like break it down from your experience. But before I do that, I actually want to get into casting, because this is obviously like a really, really big part of your career, really big part of what you do. So I want to open up this section with, how many games have you professionally casted in?
How many games? Okay. I mean, it's got to be, I would say like 15 at least. And I would say that's because of a lot of the variety opportunities that I get. I would say there's probably about 5 that I've casted with the rhythm of being the main part of the function of their competitive league. But I would say, yeah, at least 15 different titles. I mean, this year, even alone, what did we do? I mean, we had Warzone, which was brand new, Frag Punk, which was new as well, Rematch, which came out, which I'd love to do some of their esports. It's so good. But, I really, really like that game. It's cool to have a soccer game come out. I want to do FIFA. I've done FIFA, before, but it's not been something I've been consistent in as well. A couple things coming up. We got, we got a Night Rain show coming up in a couple of days that I'll be doing for Twitch Rivals as well. So a little Elden Ring. I mean, there's just a bajillion different titles. I think that's just like some of the ones this year. So yeah, I mean, I love the variety. I think it's helpful. I also think being a host allows me now to get a touch on a lot of different games than when I was more a chair one commentator, which really required me to be focused and really like have one game as my main source of attention, because it's really hard to play by play or even chair two and analyze a game just coming on the whim, like, okay, what's this game about, let me go give you a great performance. It's really hard to do that in the commentary role.
Yeah, sure. Dude, the fact that you have been doing that for like at least 15 other games is actually insane. And I feel like too, like that FIFA stuff, I know you said you did FIFA and you want to do Rematch. Mm-hmm. You have like the perfect background for that.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah,
come
you have
on.
The perfect background.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, it's like, it's so ready. I'm so ready. But the things like that, this is what's funny. I see a lot of people want to, like, they see that in themselves. And so they chase that thing, right? And for whatever reason, it doesn't open up. And instead of like acknowledging that and kind of having that inner truth of like, hey, when this opens up, I'm gonna be great at it, but let me keep moving and working and seeing what else shows up. That is, to me, how those opportunities come back around to you, because you don't know why the other person hasn't reached out. It could be that they just don't even know you're there. It could be that they forgot an email. It could be that a boss told them from another boss that they have to do this one thing and they had to cut down on talent. They could be waiting for the right moment, but I think a lot of people like ram their head and then feel frustrated. And to me, it's just like, keep going. Like, that stuff comes around, especially if it's meant to be. And just keep putting yourself in good situations to be a guy that, or a girl that, anybody who gets into this that goes, if you were the hirer, if you were the producer, you would look at you and go, yeah, that let's bring him on. Yeah, that looks like a great choice.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I were to sum that up to in one word, I would say it's persistence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just being persistent. Like you said, maybe the emails were off or whatever that one day. And I think too, with like the current internet culture, a lot of people think that they need a reply or a response right away. Or they need to do it kind of like right away, in a sense, you know what I mean? And no, it's all about persistence, like you said. I know you and I were kind of like, to start this episode off, we were kind of emailing back and forth a little bit for like at least a few weeks. So I was just like, yeah, take your time. You got EWC coming up. You got to do that. So completely respect it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's you hit the nail on the head in some elements, but there's also this other important part about like the flexibility of how it looks attached to the action. And what I like to say, and what has been taught to me through my family and through the work that I've done outside of Apex and all that, and facilitating and working in seminars with teens and adults, is high involvement and low attachment. And so what that means is you are being persistent, but if FIFA's not opening up, like, you're not just you're not like, well, woe is me. You move on. You never know. Maybe like Mecha Bellum decides like, we want you to come out and be the first, person to try casting this game. You go, okay. And you become the Mecha Bellum guy, and you do that for a year. And then all of a sudden you've got like a foothold in this industry, which everyone is trying to find right now. And then that FIFA opportunity shows up. And I think if you're just attached, no, I can't do that. I got to wait for FIFA. FIFA's my thing. I'm going to be so good at it. Then that starts to, in many ways, I feel like you can lose opportunities and lose the pathway that might be there for you if you're not flexible enough to, like, it's going to look different. We're in a world that just, things change, things happen, flow with it, but keep taking action steps to wherever that flow seems to be leading you. Easier said than done, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely well said, leaving your options open and all that kind of jazz. Speaking of like casting too, I know you've casted, obviously, like you said, a few different games. One or two that come to mind for me are Smite and Rainbow Six Siege.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was a professional Siege player for the first like 3 seasons.
Wow.
Yeah, that game was out, so I was back on console. You probably casted what, like after?
It was in 2000, and I want to say 18 or 19. It was a minor event that we had at the HyperX Esports Arena in Las Vegas. It was my first introduction to a lot of colleagues that are good friends now, but also the Siege community, which is amazing. What a great game.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. Do you have any plans to do anything like future with Siege?
I would be interested in it. It's just something that I would need to kind of be a host for. It's so detailed, and the intricacies of that game. I mean, we had somebody who didn't know enough, and they got cut mid-event. Like, I'm talking about, they did a few games, and then it was like, you're out. Like, with
really?
a 3-4 day event happening. Yeah, it was intense, but I met so many great people there. It was my first time I met Jess Goat from afar. I think she was coaching at that time, and then we did the Esports Awards together for the first time last year, but we had that connection, and she's great. And we actually went to a Lakers game. She's like that weird Australian person who's like, let's go see the NBA, and you're like, what? And it's like, I'm going home, and she's like, no, the Lakers are playing. I'm like, okay. And then we literally just went to a Lakers game, like, had great tickets. I was like, I don't do anything like this, but win in Rome. And Lottie Van Prague, who's been the host of the Halo Championship Series, stage host for the CWL, Call of Duty World Series, CDWL, and obviously main host before Puckett was there, and she went back to Halo. And so, Lottie's a great friend of mine. I met her for the very first time. Velly Caldwell is now doing news and back working at the HyperX Arena. All those people were involved in that. So it was really cool. I really enjoyed Siege, and it was like my first freelance event outside of working at Hi-Rez.
Really?
And I was still working at Hi-Rez at the time. So it was a bit of a drama to it, because at the time, they didn't really have a system for employees going and taking freelance gigs. So to put into perspective, it was very new. It was a big ask. I took PTO, but my boss, who's an amazing man, just was like, given the way I want to see this company going, like, we kind of want to act as managers and agents. And I was like, well, I don't really see that. So they're like, well, we need to like take the money that they're going to give you, essentially. And that money was like a month work, freelance money. Obviously it's sparing, but it's much more money than, steady stuff. So it was like a month of work for me. And I was like, I can't do that. He was like, well, I can't let you go. And I was like, well, I'm going to go. And he was like, okay, just this once. And that literally was the start of me transitioning out of Hi-Rez, and that gig led to another gig, and it led to my main producer, Drew Olmeyer, who worked at the NFL Network for at Fox for 14 years, was getting into esports. He saw me, and basically he offered me the main hosting position as he left there and went to work at EA. And that's where I started doing Madden full time. And that's where I met the head of broadcast, Joseph Lynch, after about 6 months of Madden, and got introduced to him right before the preseason invitational for Apex. I wasn't offered a spot, but I made it very clear to reach out to Joe and Drew, and yeah, we had some really amazing. The story of it is pretty miraculous. Like, it ended up going to a restaurant by myself after the event, meeting Joe, saying my dad was there. That was great, Dad. By ourselves in the restaurant, and then in comes Joe and Drew, the producer who brought me, and the head of broadcast for EA, and we're the only 4 people in this whole restaurant. Meanwhile, he said he was going downtown, and like, we're right by the hotel. So whatever reason, we have another 15, 20-minute talk. We really developed that relationship. He talks to my dad, and nothing happens. And, I'm going on a cruise. This is my birthday, and I get a call from Joe, and he says, listen, somebody dropped out in Poland. You're the first guy I thought of. Would you like to go? And I don't even know if you have a role, but would you like to go for Apex? And I said, let me check with my girlfriend, and at the time, and now my wife. And he was like, what? I was like, let me just check. She got a cruise, man. It's non-refundable. It's non-refundable.
Yeah, of course.
So I'm going to be in trouble. You understand, Joe? So I said, I got the numbers and I asked her and she was like, cool, we'll do another cruise. And basically I went, and that was the first event I ever did for Apex. I've done every event for Apex ever since. And I didn't have a job for like a day, and I went on at night that one day, and I did about 3-4 minutes on the desk, and I went viral because Mindo Kusai, and he's the one I'm doing this Elden Ring thing for with Twitch Rivals. It's his Elden Ring thing. He tweeted and is like, who is this Raynday gaming guy? We need this guy on every single desk. And, I talked to Joe, and he said they were watching that, like the backstory. I never knew this till like 4 years later. And he said, when we saw you that one time on camera, we knew like you are one of our main guys. And this was like, I had no job there. Like I was literally in the green room for like 12 hours, like just doing nothing. So, all these little things, man, you just like go with the flow, and who knows, but that's like how all that bridged into my first time actually being a part of Apex and how I kind of got into it.
No, dude, that's super fascinating. I mean, just going back to the high risk thing, you took a really big risk, right? Like you said, because even though your boss said, okay, we'll let you do it just this once, if he didn't say that, you were going to go anyway. So you're going to take this steady paying job, go away from it to do freelance. So you got to risk it for the biscuit, right?
Yeah, but I had life that had given me like an ultimatum in itself. Like basically, it was my wife now and girlfriend at the time. She just didn't move to Georgia, so we had been together for 7 years. We did 3 years long distance. It was at the 3rd year, and it was like, what are we doing? And she was going to move to San Diego, do her master's, and I was just like, I'm literally like I'm the same person financially, like physically, whatever it is, as when I went here. Like I feel like I haven't progressed anything, and I just looked for solutions. And so that's kind of like the journey that led me to doing different videos than Paladins and Smite for the first time. And I was nervous because I worked at that company and they didn't like competitors, being featured on, a employee's account that was very connected to me. And I stumbled across reacting to trailers, and it was like 2-3 months of that. I reacted to League of Legends. I reacted to, like the KDA stuff. I'd never seen it. So it's like a Smite player reacts to League of Legends KDA and like dancing to it. And like those got like 300, 500,000 views randomly. I'm like, whoa, okay, let me keep doing this. And Game Awards, I put out like 7 reactions mid, I started doing this and taking risks. And then one of the trailers was Apex, and that trailer blew up. I did a video the next day. That blew up to about 100,000 views. It was a quick 5-minute like tip video. And then the next morning I went to work, but beforehand I did a 26-minute video, full recording, just straight start to finish, every gun in Apex Legends training range. Hit, finish, upload, made a quick thumbnail. And that video got like 1.4 million views or something.
Wow.
And that's kickstarted every video I got for that time, being like 1 million to 500,000 to 1 million each video. I made in 3 months like the rest of what I would have made at the year for high res, and I was able to quit my job at that point and do things like this and take that risk. So that's why I was more comfortable taking the risk, because I was like, I actually am probably gonna leave now, because I have a chance, and like I paid off my credit card debt and all that stuff. So it was all that stuff just like, I look back at my life in that moment, it was so pivotal, but it was a risk, as well, to be like, I'm going to give this up. But, I have my wife now, and we have a daughter. I mean, it's like, it was the right idea. It was the right thing to do. It just, I'm glad the perfect moment kind of showed up and it was easy for me to see. Not everyone gets those perfect moments where it's like, oh, this is it. Run with this,
Yeah, absolutely. And like at like the perfect time too. So it's, no, that's actually amazing, dude. Like, hats off to you for that. That's like that's like everybody's dream to get something like that. So you said 1.4 million views. Were those sort of videos that you expected to get that high of viewership? Because I feel like it's always like the opposite. It's like when I put out a video and I don't expect it to do well, it just does well for some odd reason,
There's this weird creator thing where the videos you think are the best do the worst. I think there's mostly like, this is pretty common. And I think I've tried to nail this down. It's not really worth it. It's just more like the lesson is some of the stuff that's really accessible just is accessible, and there's a reason. There's a reason there's 10 Fast and Furious movies. There's a reason, like Twilight does well, and all Christian Grey does well. It's like a trope, but it works. And if you want to make money and you want to be successful, be accessible. And if you want to be creatively fulfilled, do whatever else you want. Now, the problem is a lot of people come up into life, and they come against life when they're being creatively fulfilled, and they go, well, I want to make this video, but it's not going to get any views and no one's going to watch it. And so I might feel creatively fulfilled, but do you really, when you look at your views and you have like 0 view or like 20 views or something, do you really feel creatively fulfilled? If so, keep doing it and you're on the right track. If you still feel good, keep doing it. But if you are like, was it really that, you like start thinking about it, then I think that's a lesson to be like, yeah, maybe I thought more about what I wanted to see. And I need to be clear on what I want to make that people will see. And by doing that, you don't have to give up your artistry. Who you are is your artistry. Like, David, when you show up on the podcast, there's no one else, even if they say the same words, that's going to be like you. You know what I'm saying? So your energy is going to be the uniqueness. You should ask the right questions. But if you try to ask like, so a flamingo or a peacock, you know what I mean? Just to be different, you're going to alienate a lot of people who just like, I like a podcast. I want the same questions. I just want to hear about this person now. You know what I mean? So
right.
That is a good maturing lesson to me that I'm still learning. And I think, pretty much every content creator is always learning, when they are in this life. It's not easy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. And honestly, I thought that was like super well said. I've always kind of been under the impression of, if I'm going to make a video, I want to do it for me.
Yeah.
And like, I want to prove to myself and motivate myself to make this video. I want to teach myself video editing because I want to do like these cool 3 edits.
Yeah.
I'm doing that. No one else is. And then I'm going to post that. And, if it doesn't get the views, it doesn't get the views. There's obviously some sort of dopamine that hits whenever you see like 20, 30,000 views on your video, right?
It's exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting. So it's cool, but like that initial sort of thought is like, okay, let me kind of make this for myself at the very, bare minimum at the very least. So
yeah, man, you could have a healthy life, and do videos that you love and make a little bit of money on the side. I did that for many, many years. But what I'll tell you is when I was in the process of like, checks being, $5,000 to $10,000 a month from YouTube, the process is making videos that the public wants to see, right? And they're reacting to the same thing. And when you get off that, the algorithm changes a little bit, and you realize like this video only got 67,000 views, which is crazy to say normally, but when you're getting 100 to 500,000 views on even low performing videos, you're like, what's happening? Am I slipping? And I think that is where you got to decide. To me, like if I was in that position again and everyone's trying to get there, I would be very conscious about how I stepped out of what I think would be a pleasing video for a wide audience. Like I would be very selective. And when I put out that video, it would be a video crafted with a lot of care and like intentional, very intentional. Maybe like a really elongated guide series or something that has a lot of personality, maybe introduces some things that I would do outside as like an intro, funny, and then bring it into the video, some really well-crafted editing so that even if you don't watch it, you're like, okay, that still kept the brand value really high for me. That was a good video, and I'm down to keep watching the other stuff once he talks about the new patch, coming out.
Yeah. Absolutely. How important do you think it is to, it's funny because I'm kind of veering off track a little bit, but I do want to ask this question. How important do you think it is to stick to a certain community or audience when it comes to content creation?
Well, you can't serve everybody. And I think it's better to have a bad plan executed well than a good plan executed poorly. And so if you have a smaller audience, I'll use it like this. Being a bigger fish in that small pond is a great way to get started, and kind of aiming to do that is something that I'm very experienced in. I did it in Smite. Those are where, in the world of Smite, you can kind of look at it like this. All right, take a look at the 5 top Smite YouTubers, okay? And I'm not in them anymore. I was in them at a time, but now, I'm a different kind of YouTuber, I would say, because I don't cover Smite anymore. That limit was around 100,000. subscribers. Okay. There was really nobody covering Smite that had more than that, which kind of tells you the width of the audience of people who care about that. Now, every view got like 50,000, 50,000 views for a lot of videos. A lot of videos got 100,000 views. When I was doing Smite, I averaged probably 30,000 views a video, and my top performers would be up over 1 million. And a lot of the bigger, better videos I do would be between 200 to 350,000 because I knew what they were. I knew the audience. I was a lot of care. It was a community that was small enough to care about your creative side quests as videos, especially since they knew the creators so deeply and were playing Smite a lot. Starting with a game like that, I think is really, really helpful to get a foothold in something, because those are also video game enjoyers. And while they may not love every new game you try, they will love some games. And so that'll give you a foothold to go into, like for me, I started working on Paladins when I got hired at High Res. So I had to transition from Smite to Paladins, and that opened up a new genre of people. And I probably gained 100 and something thousand subscribers from Smite to Paladins. And that opened up to like the hero shooter genre. So people who might care about Overwatch might want to dip into that, who might have played TF2 in the past, people who still like Smite, but like followed me. Now I was creating that little pool of people who like competitive shooters, maybe some FPS games that, maybe a little COD, a little Rainbow Six. Weirdly enough, there is a little bit of overlap between Smite, Apex, and Smite and Rainbow Six for whatever reason. So I think that there's definitely there was some value that I gained after not starting fresh in that, and bringing that smaller community into a bigger one. But once you get to a game like Apex, your videos are you're basically in the world of gaming. Now everybody is interested potentially in what you have to say. And that also means they're disinterested if you don't say it the right way or if you don't capture that audience. It's like a full-on theatrical release of a big blockbuster summer movie versus an indie film that is going to be appreciated by movie buffs, rewatched yearly by them, critiqued on Reddit, but it's not going to make any money at the box office. If you want to be in that game, kind of know the games that are like that. And if you want to be in the bigger FPSs, which is like, it's hard to do. I think you have to widen your scope of how you like present the content. So it's really YouTube's a journey of self-discovery for me. And I feel like each step of each game, I'm kind of discovering, okay, well, what do I need to do next now to break through that next barrier that I'm at?
I think, as with a lot of stuff you've already said, I think that was very well put.
I'll just assume you think everything I say is well put, man. That's
I appreciate
it.
Okay. But no, I think that's very important too, because one of the things about Apex is that Apex, I think, is right now it's very saturated with people, right? So it's very, very hard to initially get into that. But it's going to be a lot easier to get into a much smaller game such as Smite, for example, where not as many people are streaming it, creating content for it. It is a much smaller community, but like they're more focused onto your content, onto your videos. So,
I mean, just to quickly say you're correct about that, my two first videos were on League of Legends and Smite. And the reason I went with Smite was because of a trusted friend. And he said, I think you should go Smite. And if I had gone League, it might have been a whole different thing where I had done nothing for a long time and maybe years later hit a spike. But Smite, I immediately had traction because that was a smaller, more, able to accept new YouTubers in their community. So you're really spot on with that. I think it's really important if you want to start a channel.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. Now we're we're reversing it.
Hey, what you said was really well put, man. There you go.
So going back to Apex, going back to casting, you seem to have found obviously a home in Apex.
Yeah.
What is it about Apex? What is it about the community that makes you feel at home?
I was talking about this the other day. I think Apex has uniquely done that thing where they have homegrown creators who kind of blew up for the first time on their game and feel connected to it. And that gives you the community energy. It also hit popular creators in a way that, put it on the map so fast, so big for that first year that, it had that mainstream quality too. And then their decision making on how they wanted to interact with creators was very intentional. And they said, we want these people. We want to invite them to these events. We want to pay them, you know, every 3 months to do a few videos. And you're already doing videos on Apex, but you're like, dang. So they're helping me to like keep getting my foothold, keep making content creation a career. And this is all outside. So this is all outside of the game, because I think the game is important too. But in terms of how they handled the community, I think it was big. And I look to the lesson of that in what happens if you don't do it right. And I think games like Splitgate 2, you know, I was contracted to do Splitgate 1, and I did a video for it. It was really during Apex's launch. You know, that fell short. I decided it wasn't really right. I wanted to focus on Apex. Splitgate 2, it's the marketing campaign we've all seen. You know, obviously some of the things that were said at Summer Games Fest rub people the wrong way, and that was not good press. You don't want any bad press when a game comes out. But I do think that, like, you pay Tim the Tap Man and these guys hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they play it for 2 days and they don't play it again. That's a problem. That, to me, that's worse than way worse than giving 10 of your most committed, like the people. How many videos have they made on, you know, they've done 100,000, 200,000 views, 300,000 views over the course of the last 6 months. A Splitgate news, interested in Splitgate, cool videos that are like, they're doing a lot with a little, right? They like have one mode to work on. They're making creative things. You give each of those people $10,000 to do 6 videos over the course of the next 3 months. I think you have more of a sustained presence in gaming than if you do 2 days on a stream. Because how many people just didn't watch Tim that day? How many people just like follow whatever he's really playing? So is it better to have someone play it for 2 days and never play it again, or like genuinely not play it until they feel interested in it? You know, I think that is a real thing that the industry is trying to figure out how best to do it. And I feel like Apex did it so well by like investing in their homegrown creators. And, you know, last but not least, the game is amazing. And I think it's the best feeling battle royale out there that's ever been made. And I think the movement of it is part of the reason why. And, you know, they hit the nail on the head with an experience that people still to this day relate to, like what good movement feels like, what good like fighting feels like. And I don't think it's been replicated at all, like by any game, you know, despite them having fun other things. I just don't think anything plays like Apex.
Yeah, some of them have also copied too, right? Like, didn't Fortnite copy the whole respawn system that Apex was doing?
Yeah, it was apparently like potentially patented. I think it was patented, but they decided to give it to Fortnite and let everybody else use it. But that was created at Respawn. So that was a unique design choice at the time that was not in games. And now every game that you see comes out and has that ping system pretty much.
Yeah. No, and so going back to what you were saying, I've always sort of had that thought as well. I've never seen, maybe there has been but I've never seen like a positive translation from paying millions of dollars to some of the top content creators to play your game for, you know, like a week or something like that. And then, you know, if they're not interested, they leave. And I think a really good example of this is Rogue Company, one of Hi-Rez's games. Yeah, because Rogue Company, I remember they had this like really great campaign. They got a whole bunch of people to initially sign up, and that game just died. And they were paying, I don't know how much they were paying, but I'm going to assume it was hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars to a whole bunch of really massive content creators. And then they just stopped playing the game. And it's like, you don't really see that translation from that audience to the game. It's good, like marketing, good press in the sense it's like, hey, we now know this game exists. But yeah, like you said, like, how about taking that money and sort of investing it back into the community for the people that actually play the game? I understand the whole thought process, maybe do a little bit of both, maybe do a little bit of a mixture, but yeah, I've just never really, this has always been my argument, I've never really seen that work out for different games. So
I mean, from a marketing spend, I actually think, you know, if you take $400,000 and let's say you put on a very light esports event, you bring in some top tier talent and you have some of your best players, pros, content creators show up and have some fun, I think that's better than Tim streaming it for 2 days. And pay Tim $20K to watch party. You know what I mean? And pay these guys to do that. And don't drop crazy money to just go and, like, you know, play for a few hours. I think that is not effective anymore. And you know, everyone's trying to figure out what to do with ad spend. Ad spend has gone less for the last few years. It was huge in COVID. People are still bouncing back from what to do with these numbers. The top guys are getting even more. The middle guys are getting much less. And some of the bottom creators are getting more opportunities because the cheaper opportunities are what they've always been interested in and open to. So like there's a lot feeding there, like beginner creators, but that those established creators that aren't Tim, but are not small anymore, that money has shrunk quite a lot. But I think that's where you really have people who are like, if I want to make this my game, you know, Tim can switch games 5 times a year. It doesn't matter. But, you know, me, I can't just play 7 different games and expect my audience to stay quite yet until I hit the next threshold, which is, you know, so how do I hit it? Do I want that? What kind of version of my experience do I want? You know what I mean? So that's all part of the strategy of you as a creator too. Where do you want to be?
Yeah, and to add on to that, I think a big thing that maybe is missed, maybe there's some oversight, is that for the really big content creators like Tim, their audience is primarily going to watch them, right? Mostly probably because of their personality, because of what they like. And so if you are paying them to stream a certain game, if Tim is like consistently playing that game, there we go, then they might play it, but at the same time too, like they're just kind of sticking with him. So like you're kind of putting all your eggs in like one basket, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And also too, I think that's that sort of, in my opinion, demonstrates the health of a community. You know, if I go on the Twitch directory and I see one game that has 40,000 viewers, which is a really good amount of viewers, but 38,000 of those viewers are on 2 or 3 different streams,
right? And
they're not distributed out correctly, then I don't know if that's like really too healthy of some viewership. So,
I mean, that's a great point.
Yeah, definitely. What's been your favorite event so far to cast? Which one have you had the most fun in?
Oh man, the most fun. I mean, I'm trying to think what was the most fun that we did. Recently, I mean, I love Sapporo. I thought Japan earlier this year was amazing. It was a little bit of a special moment because I was leaving right when my wife was pregnant with her daughter. She was born February, and the event like went from end of January right into February, you know. And so it was like a little bit of flutters, like it could come anytime. And however, it was very special because of kind of like transitioning from this one moment in our year of Apex into a new year, and also transitioning myself into just a guy, into a father. And I think that was a very, you know, husband before, but I'm just saying like a father, a new role. And, you know, when you have moments of reflection like that and you're in a big space and people are competition has always done something for me in a special way, and championships too. Like I was privileged to win my fair share of championships throughout my life. You know, and I think that you realize like Sunday is lonely. There's not a lot of people playing. And when you get to that point, you know how hard it is to even get there. And when you win, you know how hard it is to separate yourself in that moment. And there's something that just gives me goosebumps about it. So like our championship Sunday, you know, my kid coming anytime and kind of finishing this year, to me, Sapporo, you know, I remember walking out in the snow that Sunday morning before, you know, we shut it down. It was magical, man. It was a magical place. Of course, every event has been super, super fun. I could just name a billion of them. We've been all over the world, which has been wonderful. And, you know, it's just that I think this last one in Japan, it comes to mind because it was just, it was beautiful. It was perfect, you know? And then my daughter came a couple days after that. So it was like, man, didn't miss anything. So I was ready to go, you know? I was excited. It all worked out.
Yeah, the stars were aligning. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's one thing I've always enjoyed about Apex, even R6 as well, is that the events are international, which is really, really cool. So especially as, you know, a desk host, especially as a player, like you just get to travel the world. Playing video games, hosting video games. I mean, it's awesome. I was a little like, I'm not upset because I know the Japanese turnout was amazing in Japan, but I was a little upset here because I think the games were being played at like 12 a.m. my time. And I'm just like, like I can't watch this live because I love watching Apex. I mean, Apex Esports, I'll admit something. It's amazing, but Halo Esports kind of takes the cake for me a little bit. And then Apex
you need to get Mark and Dan on here. You know, they'll have a good conversation with you. I mean, you know, I love Halo, man, but at the end of the day, all respect to Halo, it's just that like I played Halo when I was 15. You know what I'm saying? Like I did it. I'm good. I want a game that came out in the last 6 years. Like I love it, but I know what it is. So no, but it's a great esport. I love what they do. That team is amazing. It's just one of those things for me. Like I literally can't even fake it. Like I like Halo from a distance. I have no passion for that game because it's just not a part of my life in the way where I would never play Halo right now. You know what I mean?
Right.
But it's such a fascinating thing because so many of the people, you know, obviously Mark and Dan, huge Halo people. Lottie, I mentioned as well, really good friend and host. And they're so passionate. I've worked with Jersey before. Blaze has done a bunch of, you know, Apex events as well. Who am I missing? Golden Boy obviously was one of my first guys who, you know, worked at High Res with me and, you know, gave me vouchers as well. He would do every year of our championships for like Smite and Paladins and stuff. So he was really, really great, you know, getting started in his career and learning from him and seeing, you know, his example. I think there was a lot I learned from Alex. I love everybody on the team. Walshy, I saw him a little bit ago. He did a Red Bull event. He you know, him and his team threw me out a plane with Timmy and Hal. I mean, I love these guys. I've seen Halo, you know, and I feel personally glad that there are people who love their games because you know what that means? That means there's a space for everybody in esports. There's an interest for everybody in gaming, and that to me is truly why we're all such dope people. You know what I mean? We're passionate about stuff. You know, we're into things. You know, but
absolutely.
Halo's around me. I just, you know, it's not my thing.
I'm still riding the nostalgic wave a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, you know, I was a kid growing up on Halo.
Who isn't? Who isn't, man? I mean, I think that's what it's about.
Absolutely. I'm kind of upset too that the Halo Esports is actually going to end later this year. I'm pretty sure this is their last season.
Yeah.
For Infinite. So, hey, listen, Apex will be #1 at that point for me.
Hey,
you
there
know?
we go. There we go, man. I get it. I do love it. Do you think something could ever eclipse Apex or Halo? What's the type of game you would need to like jump up that roster? You know, do you like MOBAs? Do you like, you know, is it something new? What do you think?
Yeah, so I mean, like the only MOBA I've really ever enjoyed was Smite.
Really cool.
Yeah, but I don't like really. I still play a little bit of Smite, like I still stream it here and there. In fact, when you know I was telling my chat the other day, I was like, yeah, you know, I got Raynday coming on. Some of them were like,
nice.
Raynday, I used to watch that guy's build videos back in the day. Yeah, it was cool.
Hey, shout outs. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, I'm more of an FPS guy. You know, I grew up on FPSs, competed in Halo a little bit, went professional in R6. I did a minor league in Smite as well, but
nice, man.
Did some comp in Call of Duty as well. Yeah, but it was just like FPSs for me, to be honest.
Sure.
And I don't think anything will, including the Halo storyline. Like, I mean, I'm one of the guys that just buys the campaign on cooldown. You know, you add stuff to the campaign, I'm buying it.
Yeah, man, that campaign was amazing. There's nothing like the original feeling that Halo gave to gamers. You know what I mean? That first Xbox and, you know, Halo and the opening soundtrack. I mean, it's to me, it's Nintendo, it's Xbox's Zelda, you know?
Yeah.
And so Mario, you know, and I think that like more power to it. I'd love to see that game adapt. I feel like maybe the next version of Halo I'll be into, you know, but you know, I need something for me to be not about nostalgia anymore. I need this new version to be like a new thing of Halo. And that's going to be tough for them to do because they have so much that's like riding on the nostalgia of like, I want my Halo experience. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm always excited, man. I'm always excited for these new attempts. And esports, I'm pretty sure will continue for Halo when they have their next version of Halo come out. So might be a year hiatus, but good luck. And, you know, there's some really talented people, professional players, as well as talent in that scene. So I'm sure they will figure something out.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I really do like about Apex, and I've told people this, is that I like how they, over the years, have sort of updated the game to be more competitive. And what I mean by that is like, it's a battle royale, right? So I remember when Apex and in that whole like hype around battle royales first came out, I was like, how can you ever have comp for a battle royale? You're dropping in, right? And it's just like random loot on the ground. I mean, I play PUBG, you know, I play Apex. I still play Apex. Apex is massively fun. Yep. But one thing I really respect what they did is that they made it a little bit less random over the years, right? Adding in the replicators, Evo shield. So it's like you don't find a random shield on the ground. And they did that step by step over the years. And I was like, man, this is like really, really cool because it still has that random battle royale element to it.
Right.
But like it's very competitive because obviously there's a lot of shit that you can do to get a leg up on somebody else, on another team. And yeah, that's what I really enjoy about it. And that's why you still have like some of the same players that are consistently GOATs, like Hal and all them, Tom. If it was just luck, right? Like, you wouldn't be up there all the time. So,
well, I think you're seeing like it become more competitive. I think the earlier, parts of the game, in many ways, like there's an information backlog and an experience backlog. And so someone who gets the info right, you see them be 2-3 time winners and they're ahead of the game. But once people catch up, then it becomes kind of a new game. And those players, I think, still are able to succeed. And you saw Falcons and Hal and Zero and Waltzy win at the Open earlier in New Orleans this year. But they didn't win here coming into EWC. And that was VK Gaming. And we saw APAC South, represent. And that was important for that region. But it was also important, like the previous year in Los Angeles when we saw Reject Winity and we saw, Korea make their first win. We saw in championships, we saw Europe get their first win and basically go next Esports and then Navi, and Hierarcha and those guys. And I think this has been the last couple of years have been the version of Apex that's had the most parity, the most equality amongst potential winners. And so I don't know what that says about the randomness increasing or decreasing, but I do know that says the level is constantly raising. And, a high tide raises all ships. So I think the game has put itself in a position to allow more and more teams to be competitive and things like drop spots that, the best ones used to go to the big dogs. Falcons would have the best spot no matter what. Now they got to earn it. And now those things rotate given on maps. And you got to be good at everything and you got to adapt well and you got to still put the time in. And, people are hungry and you've won 3 times. So how hungry are you versus the guy who's never won before? And those are great things that keep an esport going and keep the stories going. And unlike, sports, I don't know. It could be indefinite how long these guys are playing. It's up to them and their passion. And I don't know, when they feel like they're getting early signs of carpal tunnel or something and they, they want to take a break, so, but I'm excited for the future of the game. And I think they've done a good job of moving into that both in the esport and you're right, in the main game as well, and kind of eliminating those arsenals too. Like now you just go into the weapon that you want, you just grab it and you upgrade it. It's like you're not even looking for the weapon you want anymore,
Yeah, absolutely. And I love like the new update too is really nice with the RE45 as an energy weapon burst now. OP.
That's sweet.
Speaking of like the dropships that you mentioned, how are those even chosen? Like you said, do you have to fight for them? How are those even chosen in pro play?
In the ALGS, your ranking coming into it from the split determines your first set of your drop locations. And then after that, it's your performance. So if you are 20th, then you get the 20th position potentially in your next group. And if you're first, then you would go into your next group with potentially the first or second spot in terms of choosing your POI. But it's a snake draft. So you would go first and then you'd have every other team go and then you'd go 21st, right? So every other team would go and pick theirs and then you'd be the second round first pick as well. But you wouldn't do like 2 in a row or 3 in a row. And, when it comes to these final zones, final days, we're playing on 4 maps. So that's a lot to consider. Where do you put your priority? What map do you? A lot of teams say, we suck at this map, so let's get the best drop spot possible. Other teams say, we're the best at this map, so let's maximize our advantage and get the best drop spot there. And let's leave a lame drop spot for the map we're not good at because we're not good at it anyways, so don't invest in that. So, there's a lot of strategy to it. But yeah, it's basically when you come in off the season, that first one is about how your season went. And then after that, every group in the tournament is about how you placed in the previous group. And they draft it the night or the set right before.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. Yeah. Well, now I know how it works, thankfully. And everybody else that listens to this, now you know how it works if you were ever wondering.
That's right.
How do you prep for events? So knowing that you're going to have to...
Why do you want to know?
Listen, I just want to know if there's been anything funny going on.
Exactly.
Do you have any also too, do you have any funny or chaotic stories that have happened before going on stage? I have to ask the question. If not, no worries. But
anything funny and chaotic, man. I mean, I had a moment. I'm not going to say who with or what, but I had a moment, one split where I was working really hard. There's a lot of things that have changed behind the scenes, in front of the scenes. I was working really hard to bring on a good friend, and that friend had been kind of promised and had been coming to the event in the circuit of Apex, kind of like pros and stuff like that. And I said, I'm gonna get you on the desk. And I had one moment where I was like, all right, not this time, next time. I'm like, okay, all right, not this day, next day. And meanwhile, I'm saying to this person, leave your dinner, come to the stadium, sit and wait. You know what I mean? Right. And then to tell them no, all right, once is okay. Twice, okay. Third time, all right, a third separate day. So basically I was being told, like, we need you on stage. I'm like, I'm not going on stage unless this person is coming with me. And it's like, this is ridiculous. Like, they have been here this whole, and I don't really do this. So it was like it was like a shocking moment for everyone because I'm really easy to work with. I'm like, it's all good. We'll figure it out. That's my mentality for everything. A lot of people go, oh my God, what are we going to do? And how are we going to, I'm all over it. I'm like, okay, all right, fine. Figure, all good. We got it, and like, that's my role. And I don't know how that's just been who I am. So, but this time I was really like, man, and they were like, we gotta go. They're yelling at me. I'm like, I'm not going until this happens. So then I think eventually it was like, literally, like the casters are stalling. They're like, the desk is not ready. Raynday's not out there. I'm like, I think I looked at everybody. I was like, this is unbelievable. You know what I mean? Like, I cussed. I'm like, man. And I walked off towards stage. And I was just like, man, I was like heated, And then I'm there. I'm starting to put my headset on. I'm like staring down. I'm like, how am I going to do this without being, pissed off on camera? And I look to my left. And the person I want to get on was right there standing next to me. They had sent them out right after I went out. Like, you know what, just do it. And we had a great desk segment. And I was like, all right, cool. And then, I went back and it was kind of like, Rain, I never seen you like that. You know what I mean? I never seen you like that. But, and I don't really get like that. It's kind of one of the only moments. But like, I think you got to respect people telling you something and following through with it. You know what I mean? Because I think, hey, just tell me no. And that's fine. But don't tell me yes every day. Have me work with somebody else and then there's no accountability anywhere. Like that to me makes me be in a bad spot for my friends and people who are there to help us. We want a pro perspective on the desk. You know what I mean? So
right.
It was, that was one, that's one that came to mind. I don't know.
And they were missing dinner too,
That's what I'm saying. I felt bad. You know what I mean? Like, I think it might've been one of the London ones or it might've been some of those, but it was just like, yeah, there's just missing things. So I was like, yeah, I appreciate it. What was the other part of that question? It was the chaotic. Oh, how do I prepare? And then just the other part, man, I think preparation is up to each person. There's not a right way to prepare. You have to understand your strengths and what your role is. If I was a commentator, I would have to do something way different than what I have to do as a host. My hinge on the broadcast hinges on me in very different ways than it does Mark or Dan or Vicky or Genome or Dia or Graceful or Lauren. Like it's a very different process for me. And part of that is being present. It's being confident. It's understanding storyline beats that are punchable enough to kind of set up the tone of the day and allow everyone else to go to work. And then also looking at through lines and ways to navigate upcoming segments that we don't have any tape for. I don't use a teleprompter. We don't have any lines. Everything is off the cuff. And while we have understanding of what we're going to talk about sometimes, for the most part, it's just like, how do you deliver this information? How do you talk about this idea? That's all on the fly. So to me, that's a matter of me being in the right space. And a lot of that headspace has to do with the sleep before, the workouts when I get to the hotel, the way that I'm eating, the way that I'm checking in. It's a zone, it's kind of like you go out there on the field, onto the pitch, and you're like, I'm ready to play. You can't, you can take a couple practice shots, but the only thing that matters is when the whistle starts, right? So that right. I'm used to that type of preparation. I set myself up for success. Then I go out there and I perform the best that I can. And so that to me has always been gift and curse sometimes, but more so a gift because I'm really, really flexible. I think probably my thing that I'm known for is being able to do something off the cuff well, so you don't know it's off the cuff, And that to me has been a fun thing with my producers. They throw me the most ridiculous stuff, and they go, "Yeah, this is about somebody, and I think hockey's," and they mention his mom somewhere, and Alliance won before, so just throw to this video, and I'll come up with something and be like, "How the hell did you say? How did you say that? That was brilliant, And so it's always just fun. I try to stay in that zone as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's when you say, I don't even know how I came up with that.
I don't even know. Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, when it comes to players, it's important that the people on both sides, the ones next to you, but the ones behind you also get their credit. And for someone who's been behind the man, the myth, the legend of Alliance and their win for more than just last year, all 29 years of his life, we want to take a moment to celebrate the one and only mother that is always in the stands cheering on her son. Something like that, right? It's off the cuff, but then you go, boom, and they play a thing. It's all about hockey's mom. We did a segment on moms and stuff. So it's like you just kind of get used to, what that works. And yeah, you figure out what works, and you try to stick towards that. And sometimes you flub, but yeah, try to be in the pocket more often than not.
Yeah, and I feel like that obviously also, when you get used to it, reduces the nerves. Was it nerve-wracking when you first started? Was there like a sense of nervousness when you're like, man, I got to go on and potentially tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of people and, talk about this?
Yeah, I think soccer helped me a lot. I played in stadiums with tens of thousands of people. I've had really a lot of high pressure moments in my life. I was already all over the world by the time I was, 16 years old, and so a lot of the stuff that like this was just more of the same, and I really, really enjoyed it. And I found this early about myself is that I like the spotlight to the point where I get better in those moments. Like, I think there's a version of me that's a little subdued, and then when the lights come on, I bring out this version of me that's ready for that. And that is, I don't know if it's a conservation of energy or if there's just something about it that is innate to kind of my personality, my DNA, but that's always where I've been comfortable. And remember when I was going back to it saying, I just think I need to get in the room. I need people to see me and experience me. That is why I always felt comfortable with that, because I was like, once I'm in the room, I'm good. I don't have to explain all this stuff. You'll just see that it's the right pick. And I've always felt that way. So, maybe it's training, maybe it's sports. I definitely think a lot of it has to do with sports and discipline and trusting yourself, because being able to ad-lib is about being able to be. The other thing I will give credit to is my father, mother, my family dynamic. My brother has Down syndrome. And so we've been a very tight knit family. I have a little sister beyond that too, an older half sister as well, and a big cousins and all that stuff. But we've been a very open and emotional and potentially vulnerable, family, willing to talk through that all. I've practiced a lot of that stuff. And to me, the moments that people say impacts them the most of what I do happen to be the openings, or sometimes a lot of times the closings of our shows where, maybe I tear up, people tear up watching. I get a lot of that feedback. And I think when I tap into those parts of myself, which is just let's be raw, let's just be human. I feel like that makes for really interesting TV, and it's very entertaining. And I think that's where probably I try to, if I'm ever stuck, if I ever feel like I'm flubbing the line, I go back to that part of me, which is okay, yeah, can't talk today. You know what I mean? But
right.
let's just figure this out, because, I want to know, Lauren, what do you really think about this? I can't probably say it, but you could probably say it better than me. And just lean into that versus kind of it's okay to make a mistake then. It's okay to do that because you're just being real with what is. And I think that's been a little bit of my superpower from so far of what I've done.
Yeah, and I think you really hit the nail on the head with that one when you said that openness with your family kind of helped you to excel at this line of business, because a lot of us, I know myself, I can be pretty closed down when I'm talking about certain things, and especially when you're in front of, again, potentially tens to hundreds of thousands of people, you're going to be even more closed down, right? Yeah. There's going to be a lot of nerves there. So yeah. No, I think that was kind of maybe a source of inspiration behind all that to really to help you with that. So yeah.
Well, when you feel better and you do these things in life that make you more open, you do these things in life where you're taking more risks, You do a 5-week training program, like you're gonna come onto that broadcast with more confidence. You just are. You're gonna do everything in your life with more confidence. You're gonna trust yourself more. You're gonna trust that you do what you say you're gonna do. When you want to have a good show and you want to show up and you want to get dressed at the right time, like you're gonna know you're gonna do that. You're not gonna like, I know I say I'm going to get up at 6:30, but I'll probably snooze for, 3 times. Like, you're going to get up because you've put in that work. And then the more you build that, and then you show up as that person, I think for broadcasters, you will feel better. People react to you better. And, I know this on myself because I've been on both sides of it. So I've been on the side, I'm not taking care of myself. And I've been going through a lot in my life. And I've also been on the side of extreme self-care and coming into it with a ton of confidence. And I'll tell you, it's a worlds apart difference when you're doing that. And it really has nothing to do with broadcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I agree. Confidence is like one of the number one things. One thing I want to get into as well are the different roles of casting.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
What are sort of like the different types of casting roles that you've been a part of that you have experience in?
So chair one is like the play-by-play. It is the person who takes the intros. It's the receiving the throws. So let's put it like I am the number one commentator who welcomes you into the building. Once the desk throws it down to me, hello, everyone. This is Kevin Harlan back at another game, standing by with Hall of Famer Reggie Miller here for some action between the Bucks and the Pacers. Reggie, this is going to be whatever. You're that guy. So you're taking on the role of setting up stories and then making your chair two shine. Your chair two is your analyst, and that is the person who has all the answers for all the things that you're watching on your screen. And that's the person who also has a lot of opinions about those things, good or bad. A great analyst has the right mix of information and strong opinion. If you have too much strong opinion, you could be kind of annoying at times, or you can be really likable, but where someone like alienating. And then if you have too much analysis, you can also be alienating in some ways because you're not so like fun. You don't have the humor. To me, my favorite analyst was Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, and Mike Breen. That is like the perfect combination, in my opinion, of people who are pros, who are pro coaches, pro players. They have real clear analytics, but they also have strong opinions and are not afraid to share it. That's, to me, the most interesting TV. Mike Breen, obviously a hard chair one. So I've done both of those, but I mainly did chair one. When you go to the desk, you have your analyst desk. So these are just pure analytical people who are responding to questions, who are bringing up the details of the game that you don't have a chance to talk about during the commentary. It's a very different pace. These are people who can go on for 20 minutes about something, and we got to condense them to 30 seconds or a minute. They want to get into the nitty gritty. If you talk about that between a chair two analyst commentating doesn't have time to do that. So they will say a little bit, but they've got to be careful of the throw back and forth between their chair one, who's now directing where we're going and what's happening, to the chair two, which is why that just happened, what's about to happen. And, it's much more in time analysis. So it's got to be a different pace. The desk is where you just get to let loose. You get to show your personality. You get to have fun with it. And I also think you get to dive way deeper into the analytical side. I love a desk that's a little bit of really hard analysis, and then a lot of fun with some good analysis as well. And then somebody who's kind of like helping bring the glue to those two ideas. So, somebody's really personable, maybe someone who's hard analytical, but not so personable. And then somebody who's a little bit in between, maybe has some humor. And then obviously a host. That crew can be very, very fun to watch. And then the host is obviously what I've been doing these last few years, but I've been an analyst as well. And I've been a desk host. And the desk host is the person who opens the show. They close the show. They tell the audience what's happening. And the biggest part about the desk host that's different than most of those other roles is I handle the traffic. So all of our ad reads, all of our sponsors, all of the segments that we have to do for the A block, which is all the stuff that they had a whole day to plan, right? And then, after that, it's like, okay, we're just rolling. But they've had the whole day, and we have 15 minutes, and we have to hit everything that we need to do. And we have to hit this sponsor, that sponsor, this sponsor. Lauren needs to talk. Then Jayhawk needs to talk. Then this person needs to talk. And they're talking about these three teams. You're the guide to get us there, and while keeping things smooth and on pace. So if it's running too long, you got to bring it back. If it's not long enough, you got to ask another question and build some time. You're working heavily with the producers. So to me, you are the talent arm of the production team, and everyone else is being talent, but you are really kind of on both teams because you're doing what the producers are doing. Often they're talking to you while you're talking to them. So it's a different skill set to be able to navigate all that and then keep it smooth and not look like you're talking to producers or, you're going blank for a while they're talking to you. And then of course there's the stage host, and the stage host is a role that I've done, but I find probably out of my comfort zone the most. Tons of energy, tons of hype. I love different takes on this. I thought Barney Banks was wonderful for our stage hosting at EWC. I think Ryan Hart is wonderful as well in Japan, and two different styles. Ryan Hart doesn't bring that hype the same way. He's so much more intellectual in a way, and it's just, he speaks Japanese. He's so kind, and it's just like such a welcoming energy. Barney came out with the full dance background that he has, the choreographed moves of how he wants to hit this and that, and just the raw energy. And you'll have people who just yell. You'll have people who don't really move a lot and they lean on their voice. I think Stacks from our Rocket League Esports comes to mind with that amazing voice. Sometimes he'll do Voice of God hosting, and sometimes he'll be out there and it's like about this boom and this welcome to Rocket League, and that's where they get the ticket. And everyone's different, and every esport wants something different. I don't lean as hype like that. Like, you might see me be like, I don't know, but I am personable. So that's why I've done that role before. And at championships and things like that, they've had me go out as the guy to get the crowd warmed up before we actually start the broadcast. So they give me a mic, everyone's just in their seats, we're off, and I'm like, what's up, everybody? Ready to have a good time? Okay. All right. Let me see you. You want to get loud? Let me see you get loud, All right. So in a second, here's what we're going to do. Like talking to the crowd. So I've done all that. And
so you do bring that energy. That.
Listen, if I have to, remember the spotlight. When the spotlight's on, I can do it. I will show up. I don't prefer it though. It's the most out of my comfort zone versus any of those roles. I'd say the other thing out of my comfort zone is probably hard analyst, but I can switch into it, and I've had some experience doing that at High Res, and I quite liked it. But I don't think that's the best use to me. I think host or a play-by-play chair one is probably my best use in a broadcast for sure.
Have you ever been a hard analyst in Apex as well, or only at High Res?
I've never been so I started out actually my first screen test for Apex, and my first experience in Poland was a hard analyst. I was a hard analyst. I was brought on to be completely analytical. John Kefalukus, my boy Fallout, who was with us for the first 3-4 years of Apex, and Jamerson, Jetset Jamerson, who was with us for the first couple of years, and then not with us for 3 years, and now he's back with us. We're on the desk, and I joined them. And I think actually it might have been Lauren, Glitter Explosion. All 3 of them were there. And I joined the desk, and I was just, tell us what's been going on the off stages for the last 12 hours and give us a recap. Like, that's my thing. Raynday, welcome to have you on the broadcast. Good to see you, man. I mean, it's your first time on. Give us an update on that. So then it was just me to roll. So that was my first look. And that was where people were like, that's our guy. And so I like that. I do lean analytical. Like in my YouTube content, I'm very educational. My brain works that way. But I think that some of the elements of me in analysis are, I don't know. Like, I think I could be a part of a desk. If I was your main analytical guy, I think you'd miss some things that I don't naturally bring. Maybe some of those numbers, maybe that pro experience. There's like in the, the weeds type stuff. I'm a storyteller. Here's the big note. Here's the reason why to pay attention. Here's the unique element of it. Analyst. And I think that works for me. I could do a teleprompter, or not a teleprompter, the screens where you like rewind a clip and then you slow-mo it and then you circle it and then you go back and you talk about the details. I forget it. Telestrator. I can do that.
Is that what it's
eyes
called?
Closed. Yeah, it's called Telestrator.
I never even knew that. That's weird.
Yeah. So, I did that. I did that in my audition, when we brought it all live, and it was a new team and killed it. They said that was perfect. And but I transitioned into commentary more so. And, the thing with Apex is you kind of like, now the shows are host, commentary, and analyst. And basically we all do games together. So it's like, yes, I'm hosting, but I'm also casting with Mark and I'm also casting with Dan. So, or I'm doing analyst with Mark and I'm doing play-by-play with Dan. And so I'm getting a little bit of all of that. But yeah, I think the first part of Apex, I was very, very hard analyst. And I've slowly but surely shifted to commentary, then to desk hosting from that.
Yeah. And you make desk host shine, and desk host helps you to shine as well.
That's right. Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, so I kind of want to transition a little bit to content creation. And I know obviously we were talking a lot about content creation earlier.
Yeah.
But one thing I also wanted to ask as well, and maybe we stumbled upon this a little bit in our previous conversation with it, but what do you think it takes to be a successful content creator? And by success, I mean, obviously people measure success in different ways.
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking more of like from a monetary standpoint, right? Like if you can kind of describe yourself as a professional content creator, that means that of course you're making some sort of money from it, and gives you the motivation to keep building up. So
absolutely. So what does it take to consider yourself successful, or to be a successful content creator in my eyes?
In your eyes, what do you think it takes to be a successful content creator?
I think being a successful content creator is about you consistently making content. Now, whether you make money from that or not, it is not necessary. I think if you're making good content consistently and you're gaining an audience, you will make money. But even if you're not making that much money, you could still be a successful content creator. If I see someone with 100,000 followers on TikTok and they're making good content, that's a successful content creator. They may not make that much money, especially not enough money to support themselves or support a family or buy a house or anything. They still are a successful content creator. Now, when you want to talk about full-time content creator, that's where you start to have a different story. And to me, that's really important to distinguish, because a lot of people say they want to be a successful content creator, but they really mean full-time. And a lot of people say they want to be full-time, but they really mean successful. And in many people's eyes, success has an emotional component to it in terms of the fulfillment of something they've thought about themselves achieving in the future and coming to the moment where that happens. And that could be how it feels, how it looks, the experience of being known and people stopping you at a cafe or being like, oh my God, I know that dude. Like some people have all that attached to the success. And there are people right now making AI videos, making tons of money to be full-time content creators, right?
Right.
So you really have to get clear on what it is that you want. And like, yes, everyone has different ways of saying that, but like, let's be real. If you can't pay your bills, you can't be a full-time content creator. You got to do something else. It's fine, but you're not. And if you want to get to that way, the way to do it, in my opinion, is to do it while you're doing something else. So live life, have a job, have an income, and then transition your extra time into leverage so that your content can grow. You can create more opportunities for yourself. You could take a couple days off unpaid, sick days if you need to, because you got that money from YouTube. You could spend that doing other things. You have more options now, right? You can go on a vacation for your time off, someplace you really wanted to. Okay, it starts to change your life a little bit. You can pay off some debt. Maybe you got some credit card bills. Maybe you got some stuff like that. You got a mortgage. It can help out with those things. You start to build enough, and then you get clarity if this is the right direction. Your content wanes. Okay, great. You got your job. If it keeps growing, okay, great. Now you keep investing, and you're going to be excited about it. And the second that grows into something like, wow, 1 month we popped off, that would be enough if I just had that. Great. Put that away, save it, pay stuff off, keep that, because next month might be half of that. The next month might be more than that, but you don't know. And as you continue to do that for 3, 4, 5, 6 months, you'll get a much clearer picture. Once you do it for a year, you get a clearer picture. And by the way, there's no problem in making enough money so that you basically have 2 incomes for a year while you're doing your side hobby and all that. Having, $50K saved up. I mean, I think everybody'd be happy about that. Just from content. You could have gone full time, but you didn't. So now you just have this great, little nest egg. That's great. That's a great situation. Your life opens up at that point. You could keep your job. You could not, you have less pressure on your job. So maybe you show up with a different attitude and the boss is like, there's something about this guy. Doesn't seem like he needs me anymore. Let's give him a raise. You know what I mean? And you're wow, great. I'm just living and doing, I was going to quit, but maybe I'll stay for a few months. versus, hey man, I finally made just enough to pay my mortgage or my rent. I'm quitting. And then you get stuck in this thing where my number one pitfall for people is you lose your rhythm on how you're going to be creative. And you start having to sacrifice your creativity and your learning for money. And that really slows, I think, the process that everyone needs to go through down, which is discovering who you're going to be as a content creator if you want to go full time. And when you know who you are, I'm telling you, I still don't clearly know who I am in some ways, even 9-10 years later, because the world changes. And guess what, guys? You change as well. Every 3 years, you're going to significantly change. Every 6 years, you're absolutely going to change. 6 years ago, I mean, I was in Georgia, right? Like now with a girlfriend, not sure if we were going to be together. Now I am almost, 30, 35 coming up this year. I've got a house, I've got a kid, I've got a wife. Like there's so many different things that can happen in these little moments of your time. And so you don't necessarily know who you're going to want to be. I'll tell you, the stuff I wanted to do when I started content, it's not what I want to do now. So I'm looking long-term as to like, what version of me am I going to be happy with doing this for the next 20 years, right? What version of videos am I making? Is it even going to be a version? Am I just going to keep adapting? All these questions are part of your learning, but guess what stops you learning and gets you like really worried? A bill coming up and now you have to make money on this video, right? Then that starts to hurt your video. It changes all those experiences. And I just wouldn't recommend it until it's time to go. And, there's no rush for something that's coming to you. So if it's really meant to be, man, there's no rush. You will get there. And just, however, keep taking steps. Don't wait for your job to stop or wait to do it all 100%. Do a little bit at a time. Keep getting information. I think it's the best way to do it. It's personally what I did. And it allowed me to quit my job when the time was right. And it also allowed me to do all these other great things, in between and have access, So that's what I would say in terms of content creation. Be very, very long-term with it. Think next year, but also think 5 years, think 10 years down the line for yourself and how you can still be sustainable with that. And if you do that, then I think you will be building a sustainable business,
Yeah, absolutely. As with everything, I think that was well put. But but I will say, like, one of, I think, my issues that I've always had is that I tend to think too long-term too much. So I'm always like kind of thinking like, where am I going to be in like 7-8 years or whatever? And I don't like live in the moment enough. So at certain parts, it's like, I feel like thinking long-term is very important and you definitely need to do that. But sometimes too, it's kind of like, you also have to enjoy the moment as well. Like enjoy like what you're doing in the moment too, if that makes sense.
What do you mean by enjoy?
Well, like, if I'm like, for me at least, I'm always like consistently worried about if I'm not doing well right now, right?
Yeah.
I'm always,
and that's to me that means like
Yeah.
performing metrics on videos or whatever that is, right? Okay, stream.
right.
Okay.
And so like, like 10 years down the line, I'm just like, man, like, I'm thinking in my head, like, is this something I want to do? Or like, is it always going to be like this, that kind of stuff? But
yeah.
Whenever that happens, I feel like sometimes it's like I'm overthinking a little bit too much, and it's like, yo, like take it step by step. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Instead of just kind of like thinking about only the long game, but also kind of think about the short game a little bit as well.
Yeah, that's very astute. That is how I think you work it. You have a long-ish term goal. You have a direction, right? But it's like you're in a kayak and you're going to an island. Okay. You have to paddle towards the island, but you can't necessarily just look at the island because then you'll mess up, your paddling, right? You kind of got to keep your eye on the paddle, keep the rhythm and the water. And so you got a general idea of where you're going, but you're really focused on your action to get there, knowing that that is an action that will result in getting to there eventually. If you start looking at the island, you stop paddling, then the wind and the water is now going to shift you off course and you're not going to get there anymore. So you do have to have this present moment, in my experience, action that you've set up to understand of the way the world works, that if I do this, it will get me there eventually, right? It may not get me there today or next week, but I'm headed in a direction that will, for all I know, and you're a smart guy, that will produce results if I stick with that. and the time it hits the real result, I'll be able to run with that. And it sounds like maybe sometimes you're looking at the actions you're doing now and going, either you're not connected to them for the big picture of what you see for yourself, or maybe, tell me if I'm wrong or tell me if I'm close to that. Like you're kind of trying to connect the action you're doing today with the way you want to end up, because sometimes it's not aligning with the results that you're getting right now.
Yeah, something. The former, the second thing. It's not really like aligning as much.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I mean, it's just like always a thought I had, and I know like other people probably have that same thought sometimes too. It's like thinking about the future, need to do 100%, but overthinking about it, I think in some aspects maybe even like lead to like a depressive situation, like depression about it. So
yeah, I mean, you're the reason I've been writing a book that should be coming out at the end of this year. And the reason that this book is really important to me is I think there's a lot of confusion about how to get things done to where we actually get results in our life. I think like if you scroll Twitter, you could see 2,000 lists of 12 things you need to do every morning to get your testosterone up, to get your, like to make sure you don't have an aching body by the time you're 40 years old. Like, you compile all those lists. Now you got 1,000 things to do before 9 a.m. That's not realistic, right? We get overwhelmed with the potential. And the truth is, there's usually these clear action steps that, if we do them consistently, lead us down the right path. Even if we don't know exactly where that is, we know that that's going to do it. And the point in case is, if you had to get the perfect workout program before you started to get the exact results you want, you could spend weeks, months researching that, because everyone has an opinion on it. But if you just went to the gym every single day and did something, like for 20 minutes, even if you just stood there, you could, but you probably wouldn't. Every single day for 4 months, you'd probably be in the best shape of your life if you just did that one thing. And that means you don't have to think about it. You don't have to research. You don't have to question. You just do that, and you start building these blocks that get you to the place that you want. And this book is about kind of how I did that process when I was feeling a similar way. I was like really down on my content. This is like maybe 3-4 years ago. Wanted to kickstart it, and I had nothing on TikTok. And I said, I want to do 100,000 followers on TikTok in 3 months, in 90 days. And I came up with a program of like, what is a singular action I could do that would result in me getting that? And oftentimes, I don't know if it's you, David, but for me, it's like when I post videos, I gain views and subs. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, part of it is I think too much about the right video and I don't do anything. And it's like, I'd be better off putting 100 videos with 50 of them bad, but still getting the 50 good ones out there, versus I need every single one to be amazing. And I did this process, man. I think it was like probably by the end of the 90 days, it was like 76,000. I think at that point, a few months later, got over 100. And that earned, probably $20,000 in terms of like sponsorship deals that I could pull from that over that year, which is not insignificant for people, in life. And I think that it could be that fast, but it's identifying what is that thing that you need to do in order to move the dial like that. And a lot of times it's the one thing we haven't done that we know we kind of should do that's there right in front of us. So it's interesting you say that, because I think a lot of people work through that. I've worked through that myself, and it's something that a lot of people, I don't know, either need permission to do or need help figuring out how to do.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think this actually, it's funny because it kind of leads me to my next question I was going to ask you. But I feel like with what you said, you have to have sort of a mental toughness in a sense. If you're posting up a whole bunch of different videos, like you said, 50 of them don't do well, but 50 do well. It's like, just because, one video gets 50 views, like you have to sort of like mentally charge through that barricade and like go on to the next one. And so actually that's what I was going to ask you. Like, do you think that you have to have like a mental toughness to keep going?
I think there's a mental toughness required in being successful in this. And I think that's a prerequisite to being successful in almost anything, because when you think about it, everything that you have is a result of what you've done. So you have to do new things if you want different results in your life, because whatever, thing you've done to get what you have, it's just a process of a reaction to where you've been and where you put your energy. You put your energy somewhere else, you'll get a new thing. Could be bad though. Could be good. Could be just a learning process. And you have to be willing to go through that. My wife has no idea sometimes, like, because it just feels like separate at this point. I don't even talk about it. But, you know, you look at your YouTube comments when you post a video and someone throws a crappy comment out there. You got to like, I'm like, oh man, I forgot what this feels like, you know, and then you just move on. You move on, you know, and I used to get serious about it. I responded to every comment. That was one of my ways to get engaged. The first year, I responded to every single comment that would happen on every video of mine. And bad ones too. And by the time I responded to the bad ones, they were normally like, yo, you responded, dude, you're amazing. I love your stuff. Like literally that was like the response every single time. So a lot of people don't even mean it. They do it to get attention. And you learn to build up that thing about where am I going? And I think that's why what you do impacts other people much more than you think. And you keeping on going, having a direction. We want to change the world, but we change the world by changing ourselves. And then the people in our lives see that and they go, wow, so that's how you do it. You know, then our community sees it. Then you have experience to share with other people, your kids, your nieces, your nephews, your friends that uplift them. And I think that's where building that part of you that just keeps going. Yeah, that sucked. All right, keep going. Oof, that felt some way. Keep going. It's not that it doesn't affect you. You just know that what I want and what I'm after, this is the stuff that's in the way. And for most people, it becomes the test. Do you want to keep going through those bad comments? Because on the other side of a successful YouTube video are those bad comments. And you have to get through them, because if they stop you, then you'll never have a video that goes viral. Because the second your video goes viral, guess what? You're going to have 1,000 more of those comments, 100,000 more of those comments. I'm telling you, it's going to feel terrible. You're going to be like, what is this? This isn't my community. But that's the cost of being out there. And your video might make you $5,000 when you do that. So are you willing to go through it? Are you willing to have that? You know? So, and that's the question everyone has to answer for themselves. And it's not easy, but you're right. I do think it's a process of the people, even if it looks like they got it easy, every great YouTuber, every big YouTuber has gone through that process and is going through it.
Oh, absolutely. I've always said everybody has their hidden demons, you know. One thing that's funny that you were mentioning is like, for me, whenever I have a video like actually just pop off, there's always an influx in like bad comments, but yeah. I know that means that the video's popping off because you're hitting like a more diverse crowd of people. So it's like everybody's going to have more diverse opinions about it. So yeah, it's like if every comment is positive, it's like, oh, maybe this video isn't popping off. But then you have like those few, you don't want every comment to be negative, but then you have those like few bad eggs and it's like, okay, yo, this is going to pop off for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's like, yeah, you reach a billion people. How exciting would that be? Video or your channel reaches a billion people. I mean, not everyone's going to vibe with you. Once you get big enough, man, everyone's going to have an opinion. And you just got to learn how to, that's why I say, I think building that inner confidence and that inner resilience is so important, because that's how you get to handle that. And, you know, we make fun of billionaires and actors and all these people, and you go, oh, why do they feel sad and this and that? It's like, they're just people. It's not easy to go through everyone having an opinion about you. But, you know, they've been willing to take that trade. And I think YouTube and content, it's, if you want to get big enough to be like, this is definitely full time, this pays for my life, this gets me things for me and my family, you know, you got to be willing to do that.
So how did you build that up? Do you think that was something maybe from childhood? Do you think it's like a personality you were just born with?
No, it's definitely not. It's certainly helped that I was born in my family. My dad has been and my uncle, they are professional facilitators. They work with Fortune 500 companies, but before that and throughout the last 40 years have worked with teens and with adults in, you know, heart-centered, experiential seminars that help people come to this reality of like valuing themselves, loving themselves, how to connect with other people, you know, how to operate in the world and, you know, still be authentic, right? Which are difficult things. People go, here's my work face, here's my home face, here's my, you know, out with my friends face. How do you know, are you living all those faces, or like, who are you, right? And why are you afraid to bring all those things to it? Because the people we admire, they do that. You know, they are these people who are like, I want to be like that. So getting in touch with that for me is a lot of the work I've done. You know, I've facilitated groups like this and been in that process for 20 years of my life. So I learned that way. Another way I learned was through the resilience required and the discipline required of being an athlete, which means saying no to the things that don't work for you. and saying no to parties, saying no to drinks. You know, I don't think I had my first drink probably till after college. You know, I think it's crazy. You know, I've never done a drug in my life. Like, there's just not, like, to me, I've made choices that a lot of people say, well, why not this one time? Like, I've said no to a lot of things a lot of times, and that's built a resilience inside of me where I feel confident knowing who I am. And I've had times where I've also, guys, felt really down and been overwhelmed, and I made choices that I didn't feel like they were who I am. And then I felt more and more lost as I kept making those choices, and I would go into the world and the world would dictate what I would feel. And that sucked. And I think, you know, going back to the book that I'm writing and kind of the 90-day challenge, and the element of it is like doing these things simply that you say you're going to do and committing to them. When's the last time you said you're going to do something and did it 30 days in a row, 60 days, 90 days, even if it's just 10 minutes? When's the last time you did anything that long that you said you're going to do and did it every single day? What that does isn't even about the thing. It's about, I built this inner sense of trust that I'm going to do what I say I'm going to do. And that confidence that you have from that affects all these other areas of your life, and it makes you more resilient in being able to handle a situation that you go into. And that, to me, is a little bit of the hidden, you know, sauce. I see a lot of people, they, you know, I'm showing up in this time, and then they show up 2 hours late, you know, or an hour late, and you're like, well, you said you're going to show up. You know, that breaks trust with the other person, but it also breaks trust with you, because when you say you're going to go do this thing, like make this video, you don't necessarily believe it, because you just said you were going to go do this and you didn't do that. And the only person that's really listening in that situation is you. So that, to me, is a really important thing. I think I say YouTube is a journey of self-discovery, because as you realize, a lot of the stuff that you go through in terms of your content, it mirrors your personal growth process. And some people get it easy. I don't want to leave that out. Some people like feel like they just show up and things work out for them. Remember, everyone's got their own stuff they're working with. So maybe they're not working with the thing you are, that somehow, for whatever reason, means they get 1 million subs in a year on YouTube and it's easy, right? You might have been working 10 years for that. But I think if you do have the awareness that you becoming the person that's resilient by doing what you say you're going to do, setting out and for intentional self-improvement, and then also willing to risk in order to, and be vulnerable in order to get what you really want. Those are the things that I think separate people when it comes to entrepreneurial things. And this is certainly a very big entrepreneurial, you know, thing. And it's even more personal than starting a business, because it feels like it's about who you are. You know what I mean, David? So it's, you know, it's definitely one of those things that I could talk about forever. But you know, I'll leave it with that idea that you know, building self-trust and self-confidence is your barrier against the comments, the things like that. Because, you know, when you know who you are, it doesn't matter what someone says about you. When you don't know who you are, someone says you're something, you go, well, am I? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. You know, I have been not keeping my word. I am a little lazy, you know? Yeah. So you build your own self-barrier for those things. I think that's how you do it.
Yeah, it's funny. You kind of like unlocked a little bit of a memory for me when you were talking about that. So I did, when you were saying like, what, you know, what's the last thing you were consistent at in the last 30 days, something like that. I did like fasting, or I still do fasting. But I used to weigh like 250 pounds. I'm at now like one.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, I'm like a little under like 180, or sorry, I'm a little under 190. So I also like work out and stuff. But before, like, I didn't do any of that. And I was like, funny enough, I think like a podcast got me into it, and I was like, yo, like I want to, you know, I just want to start like being more healthy. So I started practicing intermittent fasting, 8:30 to 8:30. So I don't eat from like 8:30 p.m. to 8:30 a.m. And so you get some of that sleep. Yeah. And like over the course of like a year or so, like I just lost a lot of weight. So yeah, and I do think, to your point, that also helped me build a lot of confidence, because I was able to stick to a routine, something that I said I wanted to do, and I was able to do it. So yeah, no, it was good. What do you think is the hardest part about creating a video? Do you think it comes down more to the brainstorming, the idea creation of it, or does it come more down to the execution of the video for you?
I was really thinking about this the other day because I was thinking that kind of in alignment with what we were saying, like your idea as a creator that you're so excited about that no one cares about. Sometimes like you work so hard and then that video does so poorly, but then you do a video that's just like a topic that people care about and it does really well. I was like, I think a good idea trumps execution of kind of like a not great idea here in some ways. And I say that knowing that I said a bad plan executed well is better than a good plan executed poorly. The reason I use that phrase in that context was I think when you are cohesive as a unit, I use it a lot in terms of battle royales and things like that. When you all are on the same page, it's much better than everyone having great individual ideas and like not being cohesive. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts in that regard. In terms of this, I do think a really good idea is really important for the success of your video. I also think a really good thumbnail is hugely important as well.
Really?
Yeah, and I think that's like one of my things that I really dislike. Like, 'cause I love ideas and the creation process, writing, the videos, the audio. I love it. But now all of that hinges on my packaging, my title, my thumbnail. I feel like it's very difficult for me. You know, I don't know about you, but like that is the part that gets me and that I would like hire out mostly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know. I think, however, if you have a good idea, if you have a good idea and it's not executed perfectly, it's okay. If you have like a bad idea, it doesn't really matter, I think, how well that you execute it. And so you do have to be able to like be aware of the trends of what people care to watch. But, you know, you just have to recognize also that wasn't the right idea. People didn't care about that. I took a risk. Cool. Didn't pay off. Let me move on. Let me get closer to the direction. That's not it. Okay. Let's try this way. Nope. Okay. This way. Oh, wait. Now I'm kind of close to where I need to go. That's the importance of doing that. But yeah, man, I don't know. Titles and thumbnails, they scare me, dog. They scare me, you know, it's just like all that work, you know, could be ruined if I don't get the right thumbnail, man.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, that's why I started hiring somebody to start making my thumbnails, because I was doing it myself, and I was like, I'm getting better at this, but, like, I hate this.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, so it's funny that you were talking about the idea being very, very important, because I do agree with that, and I actually think that the idea is more important than the execution, and I was a little bit surprised at the thumbnail aspect, because for me, I've kind of had like the opposite approach. Not the opposite. You need a good thumbnail, but I've always thought it's more about the concept, the idea of the video that matters the most. Not saying it's like, oh, focus on that and all of a sudden have a dog shit thumbnail. Like, no.
Sure.
But like, for example, so I've been making Rivals content.
Okay.
And one thing I try to do is I do gameplay commentary. So I try to commentate over what I'm doing because I hit Eternity. So it's like, cool, I have those like credentials.
Good on you, dog. Good on you.
So one thing I do is like, I commentate over the videos, and you know, some do pretty poorly, some do like decently well, but some have actually gotten like 40, 50,000 views, and it's like,
that's
well,
awesome.
The ones that are getting that much viewership, what's going on? It's the same video, it's the way it's packaged. Even if the thumbnail is consistent. So like one video, for example, is how to deal with dive as a healer. And that video has the same exact structure as a lot of other gameplay commentaries, but that one actually ended up popping off. Got, I think, like 35,000+ views. Yep. And even though it's the same structure, it's because it's packaged differently. There's like a specific concept in there. And I think it allowed people to kind of like maybe interact with it more. Like they're clicking on that video in particular because they want to know how to deal with that as a sport, not necessarily because they want to listen to a gameplay commentary, but that got them to click on it. So regardless,
yes, dealing with dive as a support. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so in that follows like a very similar structure to like some of the other videos I do. So it was very interesting that those kinds of videos popped off, and I just thought it was like, okay, maybe it's the concept, the title, the idea that is like really the most important thing when it comes to creating a video.
I mean, in certain ways it is. One way you can understand this is like a tier list is always going to be pretty successful. I see some of your videos that have gotten some of the most views on your channel are tier lists, and they have basically no real thumbnail. I mean, I know you did a little bit on the bottom, but you didn't really package it with a thumbnail, but the title is searchable and it's important to people. I see some good thumbnails you've done, like Marvel Rivals Celestial Guide to Mantis. That's a good thumbnail. The importance of pocketing Marvel Rivals support. I think you've got a lot of videos that seem to, even when they're packaged, perform well, but for some reason they didn't pop off the same way as, Marvel Rivals dealing with Dive as a support. I think for one reason, you've got the very clear audience as a support. That's like
right.
That's a super clear audience. All supports care about that. Also, Marvel Rivals, no one to pick any strategist. Very good thumbnail. I mean, you have a very good thumbnail there, and it's a very good topic because it's information you don't know off rip, even if you play. I'm curious what you have to say about that. So your title and your ideas on these are certainly 100% carrying, I think, whether the content is good or not, they're certainly getting clicks. And I think that's important. And you've definitely hit on something there, which to me, I mean, I think we're saying the same thing. That is, if you get that right, your thumbnail can be less good. It doesn't have to be exciting if you get the idea right. And so that's should give people hope, I think, in the beginning. And then you can always get your thumbnails better. And when you earn more, you can pay people to do it. I have a problem though, Dashboarrd. I gotta say, I feel like thumbnail artists are they're outpacing their need. Except, I feel like this great middle size creator where, I'm making videos, but if a video does well, sure, I'll make over $50. But if it doesn't do well, I won't. Depends on, whether it's going to do well. To pay $50 for a thumbnail, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to work with you very often. You're needing someone who, if I make 10 videos, I'm paying $500 on thumbnails. The point is, I feel like we're missing this kind of you got the expertise, so it doesn't take you that long. So help me out in a better pricing range, and you'll get more work that way. I feel like if I was an esports caster and I said $5,000 every show. It's maybe I get a couple shows, maybe, but that would be a crazy rate to be running at people, who are just like, hey man, we got a community broadcast. Can you do 800? Can you do 1,000? Can you do this? And then we got 6 of these, nah, man, 5,000 each. That's it. I'm like, well, okay, well, I got to work with somebody else then. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I got you on the hookup after this. I have a thumbnail artist design my stuff, not nearly as expensive as 50, and he's been doing a really good job. So he's been doing a lot of my. In fact, he'll make this thumbnail as well. So, and he's a really cool guy.
I'm just saying, if you like making thumbnails, there's work to be had. You just got to price it right because there's a lot of volume. That is, more people are content creators than ever.
That's true.
$50 to $100 a thumbnail. I mean, dog, shoot.
I'm teaching myself how to do that at that point.
Yeah, I'd rather learn. I mean, I'll pay myself $50 an hour to work on it,
Yeah, 100%. One thing I wanted to ask you is that is there a message in your videos and your content, some theme that you try to portray to your audience with almost each and every video that you put out?
I was so clear about this when I first started, and that's the part about my content I get really nostalgic for. It's the clarity with which I started my YouTube channel. And as I've grown, I've had to let go of some of that clarity of the day-to-day because I've dove into these amazing things like, basically being a professional esports caster and commentator, and also, doing things like incredible, great sponsorship, collaborations. I've worked with McDonald's for 6 years in a row, and we do a lot of stuff every year, and there's been so many different opportunities like that have taken my time away from just making a video on the game that I'm playing. And also as a writer, as someone who I started writing in college. I've always written. My dad was a actor, director, and a writer in the film industry, and I've always loved writing. One of my books got animated by YouTube. And
really?
So, I was able to kind of sell that to them. And Sterling K. Brown, who, you know, if you've seen the show Paradise or This Is Us, Emmy Award-winning actor, he narrated it. It's on my YouTube channel right now. Really amazing process. But, you know, that was a book that I written in college, you know, right out of college, and sent to YouTube 10 years later. And they're like, what? This is like better than what I read, you know, my kids. And I'm telling you, I read a lot of books to my kids. Now as a parent, I understand it. Like, so, you know, for me, I was like, I need to do this, because writing I can do when I'm 60 and for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? So I need to start building that avenue for real. And this is the first year I'm stepping out into my first publication, you know, that's going to be available like on Audible, available on, you know, Kindle, ordered print, things like that. And that's kind of meant that the stuff that I do on YouTube has not been diluted, but it has been diluted. It's been spread to other things, right? Mm-hmm. I show up in different ways now. You don't just see me on YouTube. You see me on these shows. You see me on these events. You see me out here in this content. You can interact with different things, and I'm doing it, and that's okay. And the thing that has been so clear when I started was this idea of never give up, never stop gaming, in a positive community, which are two things that when you combine them into one, it's just somebody who understands that where I'm going, I'm taking the good stuff, and the bad stuff that's not for me, because the internet has a ton of bad stuff, I'm letting bounce off me. And that's a hard thing to do, but that's the intention. Every video was about creating that positive community. If someone was negative, I would talk to them. I'd say, why? Do you know there's a different way to respond? And it was a lot, but it changed people, and it changed video by video. I could see the impact. And I think that's why I've got a lot of people who come back to my stuff when they see me and go, dude, I miss you, man. Like, it's so good to be back in this vibe, because the energy was so cultivated with an intentionality. And the other one is never give up, never stop gaming, which has been a part of broadcasts. It's been a part of, you know, Apex sign-offs. It's my esports sign-off. It's my YouTube sign-off. And it's just about how beyond Smite, it used to be a little bit about Smite and not giving up. It's much more about the next step is always where the information is. And so if you want to have a life that you want, and you want to get the things that you want, you have to keep going. And a lot of people feel stuck a lot. And the way out of getting stuck, the way out of not knowing what you're doing, is by just get up and go. Take the action, get out of bed, go to do the thing. Go to the gym, don't work out at all. Drink an energy drink and kind of like do one pull up and then leave. That's fine. Tomorrow, the next day, you'll probably do 5. The next day, you might do a real workout, you know, and you don't have to have pressure on it at all. Just never give up. Keep going. And then the never stop gaming is like, I think life is many ways a game. It's like it's in one way realistic. Keep playing games. Keep experiencing the fun of your life. Trust me, when you have kids, that fun will come back whether you want it or not, or you'll be like, wow, I haven't done this in forever. Keep that a part of yourself. You know, the adult world can feel, I don't know, scary, daunting, a little boring, disappointing, and keep that aspect of like, there is fun to be had. Keep gaming. And then the other way, keep looking at life like a game where there's a rule set, and you may not know it all, but you can navigate it, learn your best moves. Maybe you make a bad move, just the game keeps going, take it into account. Now what do you do with it? And you keep working, you know, this wonderful thing that we all get to enjoy, which is our journey in life. And if you keep having that mentality, you're going to keep on going. You're going to keep your focus positive, and you're going to keep trying different ways to, you know, unlock the puzzle box, so to speak, or find the star at the end of the map. And I think if you do that, man, life is going to work out for you. You know what I mean? I haven't seen a lot of people who keep going and keep it positive and always try new ways, and, you know, till they find out what works, to be very, you know, to not be successful. I think most people who do that are very successful. So that's what my channel's been about, and every part of my content has that through line in it.
Yeah, it's a very good message.
Yeah.
I have a few closing questions.
Sure.
Mostly for fun.
Yeah. Peacock or Flamingo? What was it?
Yeah. Out of all the teams so far, which one do you have for taking Worlds? Next upcoming Worlds. Yeah.
I gotta say,
I'm gonna hold you to this.
This is always so boring. You know, when you say Falcons, I think if this Falcons team stays together, they're gonna have a really good chance to win. You got me almost bringing up Liquipedia here, because I really want to look at this top 5 that we had, because obviously VK won, but it's really hard to think that VK would win again, and that's the same thing for our other winner in Navi, Go Next Esports. It feels difficult to think that they would probably get a win there as well. So I kind of have to go for on the biggest stage, man. I don't know, man. You're looking at Alliance as an easy potential win, and you're looking at Falcons. And for me, I would have a hard time betting against any of those two teams. Obviously, Gen G performed really, really well. VK performed really well. Rock Esports, what an incredible showing from them. Second place. NIP are looking good. They need more time together as a team. And Alliance had it done. But I'd say if I have to put my money on it right now, I'd go Falcons. I think they're hungry for it, and I think this is the one that's really going to matter to them.
Okay, I'm going to hold you to that.
Hold me to it.
Yeah.
I'll put it on finals day as the pick as well. I'll put it there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like Falcons will take it. I don't know, man. I feel like when it comes down to it, those guys, for the most part, of course not all the time, but for the most part, those guys just know how to clutch up.
Yeah, they're in the conversation, at least.
Last question for you, Raynday. What advice would you give to your younger self?
If
you kind of like see the path you're going down, you have like some little time machine, you kind of go back.
Yeah, I would say there's going to be a lot of opportunities where you are completely justified in being overwhelmed, feeling like you don't have the answer, feeling like you can't change your circumstances, and you're treading water. Because, yes, you're going to go through life in certain moments, but also that's just kind of life. And I want you to know that that's coming up, But what I would say is this. You're going to have an opportunity at that point to keep doing what you've done up until now, young Evan, which is just doing what you know is right to do and knowing it'll work out. Or you can use those things as kind of an excuse to not be your best self. You can use those things as an excuse to feel overwhelmed, as an excuse to, not go to the gym, as an excuse to eat poorly, or an excuse to, I don't know, like take it for granted, and think that there's a way where just kind of, I don't know, life will get easy, right? Again. Or you can use that as your reason to acknowledge that you need to step into a higher level of yourself. You need to become more fit to handle the pressures of the longer days. You need to eat healthier so your brain and your body are ready to handle the new stresses while you acclimate to that level of change, where you need to stay consistent, because that consistency, although it feels terrible with some of the results you've gotten, is the freedom that in the future you'll really enjoy because you stay consistent and stay present and accounted for in terms of all the aspects of your life. And so for me, when those moments come up, notice, okay, it's time to kick it into gear, because it'll be really easy to say, oh, well, this is, of course, the reason I'll take it easy today, or I won't go do that thing that I care about. Take those moments that could be excuses and make them reasons, and I think you'll figure it out. And to me, honestly, man, I had this conversation with myself this year, having a daughter, and I think it was just like I had done this my whole life, and I had a few years where, just figuring out life, what I was going to do, getting married, getting a house, having a kid, getting engaged, all within 3 years. It's just a lot, moving different cities and stuff, trying to keep track of your family, trying to start a new family, and then in a freelance job environment, there's a lot of stress. And, but I'm so much happier when I take that stress and I go, all right, man, time to get my A game going, versus, I'm stressed. Like, I just need a break, I just need a break. And I've really enjoyed my life when I've started making those changes. So I hope to keep doing that. And maybe I gave advice to my past self, but maybe I'm giving advice to my future self when I run into that situation again. So good question there. Good way to end it.
And the best way to end it is, as with the overarching theme of this episode, that was very well put.
That was very well put. Episode 501, Raynday Gaming.
No, but dude, thank you so much, man, for agreeing to be on.
Yeah.
This was an absolute pleasure, an amazing conversation. I learned a lot. I know people listening also have learned a lot. Hopefully,
Appreciate it.
And hopefully you also learned a lot talking as well.
Yeah, I learned a lot, man. I'm excited for your future too. I think you're good at this. I would say there's people who aren't good out the gate. I think you really do have something here. So if this is something you want to keep developing, I think you're on the right track, man. So thanks for having me. I appreciate you being so persistent as well. That's also a big quality of getting this done, and you definitely have that, or at least are demonstrating it. So yeah, man, I'm excited to see it come out.
Thank you so much, man.